Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. I am Nick and I'm at the Olympic Park in London to do the run through 10k. Going out tonight on a fairly blowy and cold night here in London to test out the Saucony Endorphin Elite. It's one of the few races we could get to test the shoes in before the embargo lifted. So this is going to be our race video. So as well as talking about this race where I'm going to go hard as I can and see what time comes out here, we've got a report from Tom from the Battersea 10k we did before Christmas, and we'll also talk through other things, a few other races we might have managed to fit in the shoes, including some park runs, that kind of thing, or just to give you a feel of these race shoes in races, which is obviously very important. So I'm just going to finish off my warm-up, get into the starting blocks and see how it goes. Got 4 laps today, a few about turns, but conditions are kind of okay actually. It was very, very wet earlier in the day, but it's now just clouded over and it's fine, it's not too cold. So hoping to run quite well, we'll see. Okay, I'm now here with Tom, who has also raced in the Saucony Endorphin Elite. You've also done a run through, Tom, in fact, and done a 10k down at Battersea Park. You weren't really in the race video because we couldn't talk about the shoe. So How do you find that race? Do you enjoy racing in it? I know you did very well despite coughing for most of the second half.
I was coughing quite a lot. Well, I should probably start off by saying I think it's no secret that I was a massive fan of the Pro 3 to the point where I was talking to people about it who weren't even interested in running, that I liked it that much.
Strangers in the street, you were telling about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't shut up about it. So when the Elite came about, I was very excited to try this out, hoping it was going to be even better than the Pro 3 for me. So that 10k, actually, I got hold of these the day of that 10k, so I'd never tried them before. I was a bit under the weather. I had a cold for about a week, so I wasn't expecting much. But I hadn't done a fast race at Battersea Park for a very long time. So I had no idea how. I was hoping I was going to get a fast time in it, but I didn't expect it because I was pretty ill. So the Elite, I think I ran a 38.30. My PB is 38.18, which is pretty good considering I was expected to get about 43 minutes in it. So I enjoyed running in it to an extent. It definitely worked. It definitely felt fast, and when I crossed the finish line, I definitely felt that the shoe had played a big part in that. But what I would say is that I didn't enjoy running in it. When I've raced in the Pro 3 and I've run in the Pro 3, I really enjoyed the feel of the shoe. I really liked the midsole, the nice bit of softness, bit of bounce, energy. The Elite, I've found that it's a bit harder, bit harsher, just not as enjoyable to run in, as fast probably as the fastest shoes out there, but just not as enjoyable.
Fair enough. And then have you done any other races? Done some park runs in it as well, over 5k?
I have done 2 park runs in it. Both of them it's exactly the same as the 10k I did. It felt fast. It just didn't feel as comfortable as I would like, but less so on a 5k. I think for me it's probably better suited to a 5k just because of that harshness.
Fair enough. Yeah, I did a 5k out of the bag, did a park run in it, and I really loved it. Really enjoyed using it, although it was very icy and I had to tiptoe through some ice in the shoe. But yeah, so I did the run through 10k at the Olympic Park, which I didn't know the course. Tom's the big run through expert on this over the years. It's 4 laps around the back of the Olympic Park with 3 about dead turns on each lap. So I ran 33.41 that day, so it's way off my PB, but it's for where I was at the time in terms of fitness, it was pretty good time. Like, it was quicker than I ran at Battersea Park. I did the same 10k as Tom in a different embargoed shoe. I'm not sure I can't mention his name here. In a different embargoed carbon racing shoe, a very good shoe, and I was quicker at the Olympic Park, despite the fact it's a much worse course than Battersea. Obviously, Battersea is a very hard course to beat in terms of speediness, but I really did enjoy it. I have to say, I love how aggressive the shoe is in races. It's really punchy, really propulsive. It feels really efficient. It reminds me a lot, actually, of the Vaporfly, which is surprising. Looking at it, I think it's a shoe that you probably end up comparing to the Alphafly in terms of how it looks and what you'd expect it to be like. But for me, it's much more like the Vaporfly, really tipping forward, no hanging around. It's quite rigid, I think, in how it wants to run. Wants you to run when you're racing. So when I was, at the whole time, I could feel like a little bit of pressure on my foot, stuff like that, just pushing you into the most efficient position as it deems it. But I did a fast first K in that, and then just settled into a pace and just ticked along at that. And there were little ups and downs because it's a slightly up and down course with the wind and trying to go round corners and pass people. But the actual K splits of that race were very, very consistent. And part of that was just, I think the shoe just really helps you lock in and just keep ticking. And as I was tiring, I didn't slow down really much at all. And I do think it's really good. Like a top flight racer, really impressive on that kind of run. And like we obviously in the review we'll talk about how it performs on other runs, and I think the harshness comes into play a lot more outside of racing. But even at the end of that 10k, I would say that I was pretty beat up on my feet. Like that was at 10k pace. I'm wondering, I've done some longer runs in it at more relaxed paces and even relaxed race paces, and it feels okay. But when you are pushing all out in this shoe, it doesn't really take any prisoners. It's going to run fast and hard, and it's really great for that in many ways, and I really like that. I just don't know if it's as accessible as other shoes for that reason. Certainly the Endorphin Pro 3, which is, you can just cruise around in, like, you don't really get any of that kind of feeling. It's interesting, it's got the same speedroll technology just ramped up, it seems, to the max, with that firmer feeling and the firmer foam, firmer plate. It all just makes it a very direct shoe. But yeah, I did love running in it, but only in that kind of race situation when I was running well. I'm not sure how much I'd like it if I fell off the pace in a race, for example.
Well, they've probably named it well as the Elite, because that seems to be the focus running that's gonna work well for.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we've seen elites using it in the Houston half marathon, even marathon. They're running really well in it, and it suits them. But at the same time, there are people who want to pick up this shoe. I think it will work. Like, there's no doubt this is a quick shoe, an efficient shoe. I do think the enjoyment factor is something to consider, like you say, Tom. And yeah, in races, it'll be interesting. We didn't have a chance to do a half marathon before the embargo. We'll be pushing towards that. Down the line, we'll do race videos then. But over 10k, it definitely felt like, yeah, this is run me really well. I've really enjoyed running in this, but it's punchy. It's a push. It's not a relaxing shoe. And actually, weirdly, carbon shoes these days are quite relaxing and comfortable. Things like the Endorphin Pro 3, the New Balance SC Elite V3, the Adios Pro, the Alphafly 2. They're all quite chilled almost to run in. And this is a bit more of a Vaporfly style vibe where, yeah, strap in. We're going quick and we're not messing around. So we've both done, shorter races in this, done 5Ks and 10Ks all out. We've obviously gone longer than that in training. As a racing shoe, where do you think this would excel for you? Is this something that you'd be itching to take up to a full marathon?
No. No, I think it does. It entirely comes down to the type of runner that you are, and I think that I'm not at a point where I'm happy to forgo comfort for all-out aggressive, racing shoes, and I've tried quite a few of them, and I generally veer more towards the comfort ones, like the Alphaflys, like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3s. So I think it is. I think for a certain type of runner, it would be very good. I'd like to try it at a half marathon. I might use it for Brighton half marathon that's coming up soon, and see how it does over that distance. But I do think that it is a very specific shoe. So if you are a sort of runner, maybe a general runner, a lot of general runners buy carbon plate shoes these days, and they're probably not running at a pace that is designed for this shoe. I think this shoe is for elites or people who are really going out fast, and that's a good purpose for it. But I think if you I wouldn't say to somebody who was a general runner who was saying, I want to get a faster running shoe, I wouldn't say get the Elite. I'd probably say get something like the Alphafly Pro 3.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it's a less accessible shoe than many out there. I second half last year, I started to have a little bit of a sea change with my racing when I used the Vaporfly for my marathon PB in Berlin, just because I was wanting a more aggressive, firm feel, because the softer shoes weren't helping me. I didn't feel like at that point in my training, but then I used the Alphafly 2 in Valencia, and it kind of reminded me how strong you can feel at the end of a race if you have got a shoe that's not quite as aggressive. Obviously, these are still very good racing shoes. They're fast racing, they're tipping you forward, everything, but this does remind me a little bit more of the Vaporfly. So at the moment, it's something that I really want to race in again. I'm certainly keen to do a half marathon in it. I'm not desperate to get a marathon. I think it would be a great marathon shoe. I'm sure it is. It obviously is a great marathon shoe, certainly for people who prefer that more direct ride. And down the line, it'd be lovely to do it, but right now, it wouldn't be one of my top choices for a marathon. But I do think it is a top tier racing shoe for the shorter distances. But yeah, interesting to do a half, longer stuff and see how it feels. And it'll be interesting to see at the end of this long marathon block I'm in if I start to crave the firmer ride of a shoe like this or the Vaporfly, which did happen ahead of Berlin last year after a long training block in lots of different shoes, a lot of them quite soft. So maybe this will be coming to its own then. Yeah,
I'm also interested to see if running over time that foam changes a bit. We saw the Pro 3 foam changes a little bit when you're running it for a longer period. So yeah, might have a slightly different feel after another 40k or so.
very, very precise.